Let's get started with our first news. Khabib Nurmagomedov built his unmatched 29-0 record by doing something that feels almost impossible today, dominating 3 opponents in a single night. The proud owner of one of the most accomplished records in modern mixed martial arts history, Khabib's journey began the hard way, the old-school way. Trained under the guidance of his late father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, Khabib mastered the art of Sambo and used it as his foundation to rise toward global stardom. Back in 2008, long before the world knew his name, Khabib proved that no one could match his relentless grappling and heart. Competing on home soil, he entered the Pankration Cup, and what he achieved there turned heads across Russia. On that day, Khabib didn't just win, he ran through 3 opponents in one night to claim the lightweight tournament title. He began the night by facing Magomed Magomedov, where Khabib immediately showcased his signature pressure. Shooting for an early single leg, he dragged his opponent to the mat and secured dominant top control, smothering every escape attempt. The second round looked eerily similar to his legendary UFC 229 moment against Conor. That same lightning-fast takedown, that same unstoppable drive forward. Magomedov tried to counter with a knee, but Khabib's timing and positioning were perfect. He powered through and completely overwhelmed his rival. Next, he faced Ramazan Kurban Ismailov, and once again dictated every second of the fight. His transitions were smooth, his control suffocating. By the time he reached the final against Shamil Abdulkarimov, the crowd already knew what was coming. Khabib dominated from start to finish, using relentless pressure and world-class wrestling to claim victory for the 3rd time that night. That 2008 run wasn't just about trophies, it was a statement. It showed the world what Khabib was built from: discipline, resilience, and an unbreakable will to win. Long before he became a global icon and UFC champion, Khabib had already proven he was a different breed. That single night in 2008 was where the legend truly began. Move on to another news. Islam Makhachev is closing in on one of the most anticipated fights of his career, as he prepares to step into the octagon at welterweight for the very first time. The reigning lightweight champion has decided to test himself against the bigger men at 170 pounds, and his debut couldn't come against a tougher opponent, the dangerous and fast-rising Australian, JDM. The two are set to collide at UFC 322 in New York City, and while many are excited to see how Islam's dominant grappling translates to a higher weight class, not everyone is convinced it will be smooth sailing. After ruling the lightweight division with absolute dominance, Islam is now chasing greatness by moving up in weight. However, that decision has already divided opinions across the MMA world. Some believe his strength, fight IQ, and elite wrestling will carry him through any challenge, while others think the size difference could prove to be his biggest test yet. And among those voicing caution is veteran contender Beneil Dariush, who believes Islam might struggle against a true welterweight like JDM. Speaking with Helen Yee Sports, Dariush gave a brutally honest assessment of the matchup, warning that Islam could find himself in unfamiliar territory. "I'm leaning towards JDM," Dariush admitted. "I feel like the size will make the difference." Cardio-wise, JDM has great cardio. Dariush, a seasoned lightweight himself, understands how much size and power can impact a fight, especially when facing someone naturally built for the division, and JDM has already proven he belongs among the best at welterweight. Known for his sharp boxing, relentless pressure, and dangerous finishing ability, the Australian standout recently delivered a stunning knockout over former lightweight contender Gilbert Burns, a performance that catapulted him straight into title contention. His ability to maintain pace, absorb shots, and land with power makes him one of the most well-rounded fighters at 170 pounds. Islam, on the other hand, has built his legacy through dominance, smothering opponents, breaking their rhythm, and controlling every second of the fight. But at welterweight, he'll be facing opponents who are naturally heavier, stronger, and used to absorbing that kind of pressure. The question isn't about skill. Islam has plenty of that. It's about how his body and style adapt to the size and pace of true welterweights. With UFC 322 fast approaching, the world will soon find out whether Islam's greatness can truly transcend divisions, or if the jump to 170 will finally expose his limits. Move on to another news. Beneil Dariush has shared his honest take on a potential blockbuster showdown between Khamzat and Alex Pereira, a fight that could shake up the entire MMA landscape. After Alex Pereira's recent first-round knockout win over Magomed Ankalaev, which helped him reclaim his light heavyweight title, the MMA world was buzzing. But things took an even wilder turn when Khamzat suddenly called out Pereira for a future heavyweight clash. The call-out instantly set the internet on fire, sparking debates among fans and analysts worldwide. Some believe Khamzat's wrestling and relentless pressure would overwhelm Pereira, while others think Pereira's elite striking would be too much for the Chechen powerhouse to handle. For Beneil Dariush, though, the answer seems clear. The veteran lightweight contender believes Khamzat would have the upper hand if this fight ever happens. Speaking with Helen Yee, Dariush didn't hold back his thoughts. "I don't want Pereira to get mauled by Khamzat," he admitted. "I'm just being honest. I want to see Pereira ride off into the sunset with a big fight and a big paycheck. The way Khamzat wrestles is very different from the way Ankalaev wrestles." Dariush emphasized that while Pereira is an incredible striker and a true warrior, the wrestling threat Khamzat brings is on a completely different level. Khamzat's relentless takedown game, explosive power, and control on the ground have made him one of the most feared fighters in the sport. His ability to close distance instantly and drag opponents into deep waters has been the key to his success across multiple divisions. For Dariush, that's exactly why he sees Khamzat as a nightmare matchup for Pereira. Despite Pereira's size and knockout power, the style difference could be the deciding factor. Still, Dariush acknowledged that this fight would be a massive moneymaker. Both men are now holding titles in their respective divisions, and a future clash between them, possibly at heavyweight, would easily draw global attention. For now, though, it remains a distant dream. Both fighters have their own challenges ahead and belts to defend. But if it ever happens, Dariush believes it wouldn't just be one of the biggest fights in UFC history. It would also be one of the most brutal. For him, Khamzat's wrestling could be the key to domination, while Pereira's best hope would be landing that one perfect shot before the storm hits. Move on to another news. Daniel Cormier recently shared a surprising confession. He says he would actually cheer for Jon Jones if the UFC hosted a fight card at the White House. During his Good Guy, Bad Guy show alongside Chael Sonnen, Cormier discussed the UFC's rumored 2026 event at the White House, where both Jon Jones and Conor have reportedly expressed interest in fighting on the potential July 4th card. While Cormier doubts either of them will main event, he believes one thing is certain: an American fighter must headline that historic night. Cormier explained that with the current state of the UFC, there's a real shortage of American champions. "We don't think Jon will main event. We don't think Conor will main event. But it's the White House," Cormier said. "I feel like an American should be at the top of the bill. Here's the problem. We have no Americans. First off, we have no American champion now that Jones is gone. Only Kayla Harrison. Kayla is the only American champion. We don't have an American in the top 10 of the pound-for-pound rankings right now. That doesn't happen." Cormier went on to emphasize that the White House card needs to reflect American pride. "We can't headline the White House with a Russian versus a Spaniard. We can't do a Brazilian versus a Georgian. We have to have an American in the main event," he said. "You put Jon versus Tom, but Tom is from England. We're celebrating our independence from England on July 4th. We want to put Jon in there to represent us against Tom. But what if Tom wins?" Cormier even floated the idea of Michael Chandler versus Colby Covington as a possible main event. But when it came to picking one American fighter he could truly count on to deliver a win, Cormier said there's only one man for the job: Jon Jones. "It pains me to say this, but if we've got to send one bad American out there to get the job done, he lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico. If we need one American dude to represent the country and get a dub, call Jon Jones," Cormier said. "I would cheer so hard for him on the White House card. If we've got to send one American fighter to get that win for the country, you better go put Jon Jones out there to get us that dub." Move on to another news. Charles Oliveira once again reminded the world why he's one of the most dangerous fighters in UFC history. The Brazilian superstar delivered a flawless performance, defeating Mateusz Gamrot via rear naked choke in the second round. It was vintage Oliveira, patient, precise, and absolutely lethal when the fight hit the mat. The submission victory added yet another record to his incredible resume, extending his lead as the fighter with the most finishes and most submission wins in UFC history. Oliveira now stands with 21 total finishes and 17 submission victories, an unbelievable accomplishment that solidifies his status as one of the sport's greatest finishers. With this victory, Oliveira also climbed to second place for the most wins in UFC history, with an astonishing 24 victories inside the octagon. The crowd in Rio de Janeiro went wild as their hometown hero returned to form after his recent loss, proving that Du Bronx is far from done. After his dominant win, Oliveira didn't waste time. He grabbed the mic and made his intentions crystal clear. "Hey Hunter, Charles Oliveira and Max Holloway BMF belt, let's make that happen. he said, calling for a high-profile rematch with Max Holloway. The MMA world immediately exploded with reactions. Max Holloway himself responded with a playful post, sharing a gif of DJ Khaled saying, "Another one," hinting that he's open to running it back. Former champion Anthony Pettis praised the performance, calling it a masterclass, while Aljamain Sterling tweeted, "Holy do Bronx." Ariel Helwani reacted by saying, "I guess Oliveira didn't come back too soon after all. What a G. Another sub." Derek Brunson added his own take, saying, "Charles Oliveira cooks Gamrot at home in Rio. Gamrot looked confident all week and thought he had the advantage. I guess he did until he didn't. What a win." Chris Weidman congratulated Oliveira, saying, "Big congrats to Charles. Awesome to see him do that in his home country, especially coming off the loss he had." BJ Penn called him the most exciting fighter in the business, while Henry Cejudo offered some matchmaking ideas, suggesting Poirier versus Gaethje, Oliveira versus Paddy, and Arman versus Hooker. For Oliveira, this was more than just a win. It was a statement, a reminder that no matter how many times he falls, he always comes back stronger. Move on to another news. It looks like the next flyweight title fight may have just been accidentally leaked live on air. After his impressive TKO victory over Lucas Almeida on the prelims, Michael Aswell might have revealed something the UFC wasn't ready to announce yet. While speaking in his post-fight interview, Aswell casually mentioned that his best friend, Joshua Van, is set to fight Alexandre Pantoja for the Flyweight Championship at UFC 323 this December in Las Vegas. The moment quickly caught everyone's attention. Aswell, clearly hyped after his big win, spoke with pure excitement and possibly slipped up in the process. "One thing I love is to fight," Aswell said. "I just saw I got announced. Las Vegas, December 6th. My best friend Joshua Van is fighting. I'd love to be on his card, man. He's fighting Panto for the championship. If we can get on that card, I'd love it, man. I'm healthy, I'm ready. Let's go, baby. 4-ounce fight club in this thing." That one line, "He's fighting Panto for the championship," spread across social media like wildfire. Fans immediately started speculating whether Aswell had just leaked the next flyweight title fight before the UFC could officially confirm it. If true, it means Alexandre Pantoja will defend his belt against the rising contender Joshua Van at UFC 323, marking a massive opportunity for the young prospect, Pantoja, who's been one of the most dominant and consistent champions in recent flyweight history, has already proven his toughness and heart in multiple 5-round wars. Meanwhile, Joshua Van has been rapidly climbing the ranks with his explosive striking and relentless pace, becoming one of the division's most talked-about prospects. A fight between these two would be a classic matchup of experience versus youth, the proven champion against the hungry up-and-comer. Fans online were divided after the leak. Some were shocked that Van might be getting a title shot this early in his career, while others praised the UFC for keeping the flyweight division exciting and unpredictable. Still, nothing has been made official by the promotion, and there's always a chance that Aswell simply spoke too soon. But if this turns out to be true, December 6th in Las Vegas could feature one of the most unexpected and explosive title fights of the year. Alexandre Pantoja versus Joshua Van for the Flyweight Championship. Move on to another news. UFC Rio has officially come to an end, and one of the greatest legends the sport has ever seen has just laid down his gloves for the final time. Jose Aldo, the king of Rio, has retired. Tonight, in front of his home crowd, Aldo officially closed the chapter on one of the most iconic careers in MMA history. The crowd was electric, emotional, and filled with love as Aldo stood in the octagon one last time, soaking in every second of the moment that defined his life. For years, Aldo was the definition of greatness, a true pioneer of the featherweight division. From his legendary run in WEC to becoming the first ever UFC featherweight champion, his legacy is untouchable. His striking, his speed, and his dominance were unmatched. Aldo defended his belt against some of the best fighters in the world, leaving behind highlight reels that will be remembered forever. The moment was powerful. Fans cheered his name, his coaches embraced him, and even the UFC staff stood in respect for the man who carried the torch for Brazil for more than a decade. It wasn't just a retirement. It was a celebration of a warrior who gave everything inside that cage. Aldo's journey from the favelas of Brazil to the biggest stages in the world is something truly inspirational. As the gloves were laid in the center of the octagon, the arena roared in appreciation for one of the greatest to ever do it. Jose Aldo leaves behind a legacy that will never fade. His heart, his courage, and his love for the fight game made him a legend. Tonight, The world says thank you, Jose Aldo, the king of Rio, forever.